All right, this is an unedited video here on how to replace the differential gears in a gas Onward. This is a ClubCar Onward. I'm sure the Precedent is similar. I'm going to step through a couple things that I learned on how to do this. I'm actually in the process of putting it back together, and actually put it together, found out that I couldn't shift into forward. So I found something that's going to be quite interesting for you to know if you're going to do this project yourself. So anyways, where's the gears, right? So this is in a kind of half assembled at this point, so you can see where I'm at, and I'm going to show you some tips here. So gear puller, here's the gears I replaced. Find the smallest gear puller that you can get to cover the biggest gear. And you know, when you get into the gear case, you'll notice that there's bearings that sit on top of each of the gears. Don't worry about pulling the bearing, just pull the gear, the bearing will come off. And then simply to put it back on, you don't need anything special. I just used a large socket and lined up the bearing and gave it a couple whacks, and it slid right on. So that's a tip. Now, how do you get to this point? You know, you have to take the drive belt off. I kind of fought with this, but figured out an easy way to do it. Here, I'll show you. I don't have my pry tool here, but I guess we'll simulate if this was a pry tool. Oh, here it is. Okay, so your drive belt. If it's been on for a couple years, just cut it off and buy a new one, okay? If you want to save it, there it is down there, it's hanging. What you have to do is get, you know, assuming it was hooked up here, basically create like a wedge, right? So if you were to take, let's say the belt was riding on here, use this as a wedge, force it, and then start pushing that back pulley, and then it'll lock itself right off. Sometimes you can do it by hand. This is a brand new belt, so it was a little harder to get off. So there's that. And then another trick that I learned here is rather than just letting everything fall, go get some of these, get a pack of these heavy duty electrical straps. And okay, my delivery is here.
Yes, I need. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and are you Brian?
Yep. So, so get some straps. Strap it. So when you take the carriage bolts out, it doesn't all fall to the floor, and then it's more manageable. Good to go? Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so you got it strapped up. Now you're going to have to get underneath there and start taking off all the bolts. Let me get my pointer pencil. So you get underneath here, and then you've got, you know, obviously these bolts got to come off, and then what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to block the engine shield, because the whole thing is going to drop. Okay, I don't know how far it'll go down, but block this up so that way when you disconnect your differential, things hang, right? They stay there. Okay, so in order to get this thing to drop, you also have to take off the brake cables. Pretty easy to do, it's just a pin. And then these things here are slotted. You just got to depress these with a flathead, and you can pop it out of the hole that it goes into. It takes seconds, literally. So anyways, more to it than that. There is a real sticky spot. I think 17 millimeter. Actually, most of the bolts on this thing are all SAE, unless it has to do with the differential, because it's a Kawasaki. Anyway, so there are a couple of really magical bolts up here. Right in here, there's actually a bracket. There's a bracket here with a cable on it. I gotta put the bracket in, but to get these out, you're gonna need to get yourself a wrench that's got a ratchet action on it like that. Otherwise you'll be down here doing 1/8 turns and you are not going to be happy. Okay, So disconnecting things. This here is your shifter. Forward, neutral, reverse. When you put your differential back together, make sure you got 3 clicks. 1, 2. Well, actually it's like 1 forward, a middle point, and then 1, actually that's back, middle point, or that's forward, sorry. Middle point, that's reverse. So make sure that's working. I put it all back together and I couldn't go forward. Drove me crazy. Anyways, rode nice in reverse. So what's the point of this project? Okay, so we're gonna go from an 8-to-1 gear ratio to a 12-to-1. So since, you know, in essence, that's gonna create a lower RPM, faster cruising speed. So the idea is to be able to cruise on down the road at 25 miles an hour. This thing goes 30, wide open. Of course, governor or the speed control is removed. So anyways, back to this. This is your shifter. And then there's another cable here that you'll have to pop off. This ties into the speed control. There's 2 cables that come off the speed control. You got to take the speed control thing off the top. Okay, so you're going to find this right on top of the differential. You got 1 cable on this end, another cable on that end. Pull the cables out, and then yeah, this is the forward, neutral, reverse shifter, and then there's an electrical plug. Okay, easy off, right? Okay, so now you take it apart, take everything off, things drop out. She rolls onto the floor, and then what you do is you come over and take the whole assembly, stand it up. On the passenger side tire. Then you take the driver's side axle off the top. Then you get into the differential. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now, in order to break the seal on the differential, you'll have to take your whole axle assembly that's here, imagine, tip it on its side, put one end of it on a 2x4 so you don't damage it, and whack it with a rubber mallet until it cracks. And when it cracks, oh, by the way, before you start all this, dump the oil, find yourself a nice little 2-liter bottle. It pretty much dang close to 2 liters. There's some oil left in it, or gear lube. Anyways, take that out, because when you crack the case, it's going to be a pool of oil on the floor. No problem. But if it's full, then it's a bigger problem. Okay, so now you got into it, and there you pull the gears, not the bearings. They'll pop out. Pop the new ones in. Go get yourself some gasket maker. Clean up the both sides of the differential. I would use some, you know, denatured alcohol. Get it cleaned up. Get all the oil off there, and then put your gasket maker on there. Let it sit for an hour, or put your gasket maker on, and then hand tighten it. Let it sit for an hour, and then torque it to specs. Can't remember the specs exactly. I think it's around 20 or 25 pounds. Anyway, so there you go. Now there's one thing, and this is where I went wrong. And this could save you 4 hours of your life right here. So when you take it apart, you're gonna notice that the same shifter rod here that I was playing with, okay, that rod goes into the case, and that's what does the forward, neutral, reverse. Okay, where that rod goes in, there is a port with a spring. And when I took the differential apart, I noticed there was a ball bearing laying at the bottom of the differential. I wonder where that needed to go. Okay, well, I thought I put it in the right spot. I didn't. And that ball bearing got in the way of blocking the operation of going into forward. Okay, so when you take it apart, look for the ball bearing. Look for a spring in that tube that the rod slides into. And what that ball bearing does is it sits on top of a small spring and acts like call it a position finder, puts a little pressure on the rod, so when it crosses over neutral and into forward, etc., reverse, it puts a little resistance on it. That's what it does. And if you put the ball bearing in the wrong spot, you won't be able to shift into forward. Okay, so when you take it all apart, what I'd recommend doing when you have the differential laying on the floor, there's actually an access port to get to this thing. They probably did that so you can replace the spring, but if you look here, this bolt right here has the spring behind it with the ball bearing. Okay, so obviously what I would recommend doing is when you put the case together, you got it stood up on the side. Take the bolt out, take the spring out, take the ball bearing out. Put the differential together and then reinsert the bearing, the spring, the bolt, and then you're set to go. Okay, and then when you're all done, make sure you got reverse, neutral, forward. Got the clicks. Okay, so now I'm putting it back together. By the way, to get to a few of the bolts over here, okay, it's much easier to take this wheel, you loosen it up, if you have an impact wrench, I think it's just a standard 1/2 inch drive, walk that off, and then you can slide this back and forth. Boy, how great would it have been if I undid that and then I could get the belt off. No, I can't do that. It will only go so far and you still can't get it off. Okay, so anyways, obviously at this point in the installation of these straps, I already would have cut them when I took them out. So now I've reinstalled the straps, okay? And the idea is to keep using the jack as a lever to turn the differential up, because it actually kind of sits in an upward direction, so you have to rotate it. So as you push it up, go back around on each side with these straps, start tightening the straps down. And then 3 iterations of that, all of a sudden you're going in the right direction. And then what I would do is focus on getting your first bolt in, which would be, let me find my pencil, this one right here, and then boom, everything will hang off of that. And then you use your floor jack, get these positioned, get the other ones put in, and then come back around and put the hanging bracket back on there. So the things you got to take off, this hanging bracket, there's two cables that go off of that speed control arm. Take those off. Forward reverse shifter off. Oh, and while you're at it, if you want more speed, which that's the whole name of the game here, you can override the spring-based speed limiter. So take this spring right here, put a zip tie on it. Okay, so therefore the speed limiter can't override your foot intake. So you'll be able to go as fast as you want. So I'm guessing when this thing's all done, it drove great in reverse, by the way. When this thing's all done, if I was going 30, and these are 23s, so fairly good sized tire, I'm guessing that I'm going to be able to hit 37, but the goal is not to go wide open. The goal is to have a nice cruise at 25, 26 versus 20. That's what I'm trying to shoot for. And we don't have a lot of hills around here, so I'm not really worried about, losing any low end. Driving it in reverse still had plenty of pep to me, so I know the gearing's a little bit different, but there you go. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's about it. Everything seems to kind of go back together, but the hard part is finding all the bolts, figuring out a way to catch this thing, tie it up. Don't forget the spring and bearing. Don't forget to drain the oil. Don't forget to put the oil back in. But yeah, it's going to be done. I'll drop another, call it a second clip in or third clip in here. Is with the new Apache 12.1 gear set rolling on these 23s. My goal was to have a nice cruise at 25 miles an hour, and actually it's much better than that. It's cruising nicely at 30 at about 3,000 RPMs. With a little tailwind, was able to push 37 as its top speed at about close to 4,000, maybe 3,900 RPMs. I know the electronic rev limiter cutoff is around 4,100, I think, on this thing. So yeah, I mean, overall it's running great. Acceleration not overly affected, and actually runs smoother, much quieter. So I mean, if you're at a point where you're using it for kind of road transport, you know, before, you know, once you started getting over 20, the RPMs would really start stacking up, and this thing would go 30, just wide open, full tilt. Now it's at about 30 miles an hour when the RPMs start to stack up, and it's able to push into the upper 30s on speed. So pretty happy. Yeah, because a lot of the trips I do, you know, are each way, they're maybe 3 to 5 miles flat road, and you know, sometimes you just want to cruise it off a little faster speed. So anyways, I'll give you a quick little demo. I do have I'll put a lot of the links down here to the stuff I bought, but I did add a tachometer a few years ago, and I put this kind of cheap style motorcycle-like GPS gauge in, just to get the speed readout. So yeah, let's give it a shot. Let's see what it does. And I mean, it is faster, and I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't bleed the speed when you take your foot off the brake. So, you know, it's before it would kind of slow itself down. Now this thing freewheels much farther. So if you're going 30 and you're going to make a turn, you know, there's no disc brakes on this thing, right? It's just 2 drums in the back. So you got to be careful. But anyways, let's give it a shot. Okay, so we're starting out nice and slow. Little gas. Still getting close to the red line, which is great when you floor it. That's what you want to get. Now we're hitting 3,000 RPMs, and the speed is 24. Let's just keep it stuck at 3. I'm going to put it down all the way and see how fast we can get this thing going. Alright, let's hit it. Taking the speed off here. Now we do have a tailwind, obviously. That's probably the big limiting factor on speed right now is aerodynamics, but I At least the engine RPMs aren't shooting off the charts. Well, here we go, we're going to accelerate. Look at that, we even passed a Mustang. Huh. Okay, we'll do a nice 3,500 RPM cruise, 33 miles an hour. Yeah, this is great. Real nice. Very stable. And here's the goal, right? So you're in the car talking, you want a nice quiet ride. Here we're going 27 miles an hour and it's just purring along. That was the whole point to the whole gear operation here. But yeah, when you go around the corner, you hit it, it's ready to go. I mean, its acceleration is maybe a slight bit less, but hardly noticeable. Alright, well, I hope you liked the video, and hope this helps you if you're interested in doing this kind of project. Alright.